everybody, good afternoon. It's good to be with you today on Facebook Live. It's a good way for me to stay in touch with everybody, especially as we're beginning to come out of COVID. And I've been traveling around West Tennessee, around the 8th Congressional District, visiting with people again, and it's good to get to see everybody. So with that, we put up yesterday on Facebook that we were going to do this Facebook Live session today and asked you to submit questions. We've got time for a few questions. They're in this box here, and so I'm going to go ahead and pull them out. Appreciate everybody joining in, and let's see what's on your mind. All right. First, this is from Karen. The question is, what are your thoughts about ways to improve public schools education when students are able to return to the classroom? Will our students be behind, and what measures what measures can be put in place to ensure they are able to regain skills and knowledge needed to succeed? I'm going to keep this in front of me because it was a two-part question. I guess the first part is, again, what are your thoughts about ways to improve public schools and education when students are able to return to the classroom? I've got a concern, obviously, I think like a lot of people do, that some schools will be able to reopen sooner rather than others. We have some schools in my district where students were out almost 12 months. So a couple of things. One is, I do want to make sure that schools can fully reopen. I think it's important that schools have the testing component where they can provide the testing for students and for teachers and for administrators, but also to try to get as many shots in arms as we can. I'm encouraged that Pfizer yesterday talked about students who would receive, or young adults, young children would receive the vaccine that were between the ages of 12 and 15. Pfizer says that for those students 12 to 15, that their vaccine is 100% effective. And I think that's really encouraging. So the testing component, the vaccination component is important. We need to make sure that all the money that we've appropriated as a federal government under the CARES Act and some of the subsequent stimulus packages, that money's gone directly to schools, that they use it to make it where everybody is safe. They've got the safeguard if the schools want plexiglass or whatever for their students, that they've got them, and for their teachers. Now the second part, will our students be behind, and what measures can be put in place to ensure that they're able to regain skills and knowledge needed to succeed? That's a really good question, and I think like a lot of people are very concerned that it's going to be disproportionate. You know, some schools returned live or they were hybrid earlier than others. I don't think there's any doubt that the students are going to be behind compared to where they should be, and I think that school districts have really got to be creative about what they do to catch students up, whether that is shortening the period that they're out during the summer, looking at what they do for fall breaks and spring breaks. How do you do it? And from that emotional and mental health standpoint, which I think is really crucial. Good question, and obviously this is an issue that I'm going to continue to pay attention to. The next question I've got, all right, this question is from Trey. The question is, an Asian carp almost cost my grandfather his life in a fishing accident last summer. What are you going to do to combat these fish? Asian carp, it's a big issue, and was educated early on. I want to thank two people, or two person in a group. One is the Tennessee Wildlife Commission. The other is Bill Dance, who really took me out, educated me, taught me a lot about Asian carp, along with so many people in Henry County in the northern part of the 8th Congressional District. It is a big issue. It's dangerous for fishermen, and it's chasing our tourism away, not only here, but in so many other places along the Tennessee River, the Mississippi River, what have you. It's interesting that several years ago, I talked about the issue of Asian carp on the floor of the House of Representatives, and immediately got bipartisan support. It's a bipartisan issue. I'm proud that in the last appropriations bill that Congress passed in December, we helped to secure $25 million to combat Asian carp. We need a lot more work. We're going to continue to work on a bipartisan basis. Again, I want to thank Tennessee Wildlife Federation and Bill Dance for everything they did to help educate me. Now, I'm looking at my camera person. I guess we got time for two more questions, he says. So the next question I have, this is from Candace. Will you be for improving our outdated infrastructure that is truly needed in this country? And then there's a follow-up question from Mindy. What's your opinion on the tax increases included in President Biden's infrastructure package? Infrastructure normally is bipartisan. It should be bipartisan. And with that, when you think about infrastructure, when I think about infrastructure, and I'm thinking about roads, asphalt, bridges, water systems, public buildings, airports, broadband, rural broadband. I think that's what we need to stick to. In the Biden proposal, it goes beyond that, and it includes a lot of new Green Deal initiatives. I think that's wrong. It should be the traditional. Now, my concern is that we have now spent an additional $1.9 trillion in COVID-19 funding that was approved in the last several weeks. I voted against it. It came on the heels of COVID-19 stimulus funding that was pretty bipartisan that we voted on in December. And I just thought it was way too much, way too soon. So when you look at President Biden's proposal, which he talked about yesterday, continues to talk about today, we haven't seen a bill yet. That's the first thing. It's estimated that the cost will be 2.3 to 2.5 trillion or more. And there's some on the progressive or on the left that want a 10 trillion, I can't even comprehend that, $10 trillion for infrastructure, which would include a lot of Green New Deal stuff. So, with that said, the way that that's going to be handled to pay for that President Biden is talking about is through tax increases, individual tax increases, corporate tax increases, and that's wrong, especially coming on the heels of the $1.9 trillion package. I think that the president, if he has any hopes of getting this done, unlike the stimulus, is going to have input from Republicans. I think everybody agrees on infrastructure. How do we pay for those costs? Very good question. And he's telling me we've got time for one more question. So, pull this out. This is from Molly. Have the logistics and accessibility of vaccines improved in Memphis? And then the second question is Memphis keeping up with the rate of vaccinations compared to other cities of its size? The second question first. Memphis is behind the rest of the state of Tennessee in terms of per capita how many people have been vaccinated. And that's one reason that the federal government has decided to come into Memphis and operate at the Pipkin Center with a lot of doses of the vaccine to try to get people in Shelby County vaccinated. Another reason is I think we all know that with the rollout of the vaccines in Shelby County government completely created a fiasco. Didn't administer the vaccines properly, had people waiting in line 4, 5, 6 hours. Some people left without getting vaccinated. So that's a real problem. I think with what the White House announced over the last couple of days to come into Shelby County, operate at the Pipkin Center, combined with what Mayor Strickland has done, taking over the operation of the vaccines from Shelby County government, coupled with what some of our suburban municipalities are doing, like Germantown and Collierville, operating at Germantown Baptist Church, and what the cities and towns of Bartlett and Lakeland and Arlington are going to be doing at Faith Baptist Church in Bartlett starting next week. There are going to be plenty of opportunities to get vaccines. People can do it effectively and efficiently, and I applaud those local leaders. So with that, I'm getting the signal that my time is up. Thank you very much for joining in today. Again, it's a good way for me to communicate with you and to hear from you. I look forward to seeing everybody over the next week or so in West Tennessee. Have a great day.